Let's make this loaf of sourdough bread together. Grab your ingredients and the supplies in the description below, and let's get started. Grab your kitchen scale and a bowl and add 350 grams of filtered water as well as 100 grams of active sourdough starter to your bowl. You're going to mix that up really well so it's all incorporated together. Next, you're going to add 500 grams of unbleached flour. This can be bread flour or all-purpose. You just want to make sure that it's unbleached. I'm going to grab my dough whisk and I'm going to whisk it up really well so it's all incorporated. This dough is going to be shaggy, it's going to be sticky. It's going to take a minute for it to all come together, so just be patient with it. And we're going to let this sit for 30 minutes and then we're going to come back. And now we're going to add our 10 grams of salt. I used pink Himalayan salt, but any salt will work. And then we're going to start kneading our dough. This is going to take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and it's just going to take time to incorporate all of your flour into your dough. You don't want any dry spots, and you can see I'm kind of just pulling it up and plopping it on top of itself just to try to make sure it's all incorporated. Then we're going to cover it and come back in 30 minutes to do our first set of stretch and folds. This is where you pull your dough and you rotate your bowl and you lay the dough on top of itself. And so you're going to do this 4 times, rotating your bowl 4 times. You'll notice that some of your dough might be really sticky, and so you just stick it right back to your dough. A tip I recommend is getting your fingers wet before you start doing this so the dough doesn't stick to your fingers. So you wait 30 minutes and come back, and now we're about to do our second set of stretch and folds. You will notice that your dough has expanded and it is a lot more elastic. It is hydrated, and just with time, it is a lot more manageable. And then you're going to cover it, and when we come back, we're going to temperature check our dough. It's important to check your dough temperature to figure out how long it's going to take your dough to bulk ferment. Right now mine's 70 degrees, which is 8 to 12 hours to bulk ferment, but I have put a chart in the description to help you understand how long it takes your dough to bulk ferment based on your dough's temperature. This is one of the most important parts of making sourdough. So here we are. This time I'm going to do some coil folds. So the first 2 times I did stretch and folds. Now I'm going to do 2 coil folds. This is where you take your hands under your dough and let it fall on top of itself. I personally enjoy doing coil folds over doing stretch and folds. I think they're easier. I like the way it makes my dough look, and it's a lot gentler on your dough. So now we're going to leave it and come back in 30 more minutes and do our last coil fold. You can notice that it's very round. You can tell that it looks hydrated. It's just a pretty ball of dough. You're going to notice that your dough is more stretchy and elastic and more manageable, which is what we want to see at this point in your dough. Now we're going to leave it on our counter for anywhere from 4 to 8 hours and just look for signs of bulk fermentation, which is little bubbles and big bubbles. Should also jiggle, and it also should pull off easily from your bowl. You can also perform the poke test, which is where you poke your dough, and if it springs back slowly, that it's then ready. Now, once it's ready, you're going to place your dough on a floured surface. I also like to flour my hands just a little bit. And we're going to start a process called laminating. This is where you take your dough and you stretch it out into a rectangle. And you pull it out as far as you can. And you're going to roll it up. So here I am rolling my dough. And then I'm gonna grab it and roll it all the way up. I'm gonna also add a little bit more flour to my hands. Again, this is all preference. And you're going to form it into a ball. And I'm gonna create tension with my surface. I'm also gonna use my bench scraper to help me make a little bit better tension between myself and the dough. And this is gonna help it learn its shape, which is what we want. And then we're going to leave this on the counter for 15 to 20 minutes, and we're going to do it all over again. You're going to notice now when you try to laminate your dough, it doesn't stretch nearly as much as it did before because it's learning its shape. So you're going to roll it up again, and this time just form it into a ball. This is all preference techniques. There are so many different shaping techniques that you can find online. If you don't like this one, you can find a different one or experiment to find one that you like best. This is just what works for me. You're going to again create more tension using your hands or your bench scraper to just do tug and pulls, which is where you tug and pull the dough inward towards yourself. Now you're going to place it into your floured banneton. Then you're going to leave it for 10 to 15 minutes, and now we're going to do something called stitching, where we stitch our dough. It helps create that tension, helps the dough to stay in a round shape for cold fermenting overnight in our fridge. Once we've done that, you're going to place a shower cap or a proofing cover over your banneton, and you're going to place it in the fridge for 10 to 12 hours. The next morning, this is what it should look like. I'm going to then put it on my dough sling, which is essentially the same thing as parchment paper. You can also use that as well. And I have also preheated my oven with the Dutch oven inside at 500 degrees with the lid off. So while that's preheating, I'm going to score my dough. I like to add flour to the top. It helps the design pop just a little bit more, a little bit easier. But I always like to do a simple ear, which is just a slice kind of towards the middle of my dough, and then some simple wheat stalks. They always turn out really beautiful on my loaves when I do this design. I'm going to place it in the Dutch oven, and I'm going to lower the temperature to 450, and I'm going to bake 20 minutes with the lid on, 20 minutes with the lid off, and this is what it ended up looking like. You're going to wait an hour to cut into it, and this is what the inside of that loaf looks like. It turned out beautiful. It's very airy and it has a lot of even bubbles, which are all really good signs of a good sourdough loaf. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and like and subscribe for more sourdough recipes.